There's that big marble block. And I asked how Michelangelo, he said, David was just in there waiting. I just had to take away everything else that didn't belong. And there he was. And that's how we are with our own soul sometimes. We have to just remove all of that fear and doubt and reveal that perfect work of art. Well, it's February 2nd. Wondering how y'all are doing with your New Year's resolution list. I get a lot of laughs. It must be like me, right? I call mine my January wish list, basically, is what it amounts to. This is my favorite definition of a New Year's resolution. A New Year's resolution is something that goes in one year and out the other. Isn't that great? Half of Americans make New Year's resolutions, and only about 10% of those make it past January or February, at which point we just kind of like throw our hands up in the air, resign ourselves to failure, and shelve those New Year's resolutions till the next year. And after a couple years, our list starts looking like this. Just cross out the year. I like this one. I like number 5. Be nicer to my wife. Try to be nicer to my wife. Try to be nicer to my ex-wife. A lot can happen in 3 years, right? So New Year's is the most popular time to initiate positive change in your life because there's a psychic energy around it. There's a psychic energy. It's in the air. Change is in the air. And most of all because, of course, January 1st represents the beginning of a new year. We're all excited about that. It's a new year. We can start over. This is the year that I'm going to get in shape. This is the year I'm going to improve my relationships with my relatives. This is the year. So that New Year feeling, it's kind of like the clean slate. Boyd was telling us earlier how every Monday for him is a clean slate, how he gets to rewrite the week and start over. Well, every New Year is a clean slate for us, and as it turns out, us human beings love clean slates. The Quest, which is one of Unity's fundamental texts, is written by Richard and Marialis Jafola. The very first chapter is called Starting Over, You Can Begin Again and Again. And the first words of the chapter are these. It is the desire of every human being to feel he or she can begin anew. Do you not feel this need in your own soul? Think about it, the need to begin anew. This idea of a clean slate, I think that this need we feel to start over and over again really comes from that seed of perfection in us. So we have the seed of perfection. It's always wanting to express itself. It's always wanting to come out. It's always wanting to be birthed and rebirthed. And when we do something, we feel like, I could have done that better. I wish I could do that again. That's that seed of perfection saying, you can start again. You can do it over and over again. So this idea of a clean slate really resonates for me because I was raised a good Catholic boy, at least up to the age I was 22. And that's when I went off to Nashville to become a world-famous singer and songwriter. So I'm here now, so I guess it turned out that I went to Nashville to find unity, because that's where I found unity. So that's a whole different story. But one of the centerpieces of Catholicism, of course, is the sacrament of confession. And as a young boy and teenager, I loved confession because it gave me a clean slate. If I would eat meat on Friday, back when it was forbidden to eat meat on Friday, or took $1 from my mother's purse, or lied about getting out of school that day. I never did any of those things, by the way. The shame and the guilt would just haunt me relentlessly until that time I walked into that booth and kneeled down. I heard the window open up. And I made the sign of the cross and I said, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. It has been usually 2 weeks or so since my last confession. These are my sins. And then I proceed to tell him what an awful person I'd been that last week. And he would listen. At least it appeared. I didn't hear any snoring. He would listen, and then when I was done, he would give me some sage, fatherly, priestly advice. It basically amounted to, don't do that. Those things you just told me you did, don't do those. And then comes the penance. The penance was the big thing. This is where I found the true gravity of my sins and how mad God was at me. Now, for me, I usually got 3 Hail Marys and 2 Our Fathers, which wasn't too bad. I think that was about average. If Father Tom was here, I could probably ask him. 3 Hail Marys and 2 Our. That took me about a minute, 2 minutes to get through. If you're really bad, you get the whole rosary. You got to do the whole. That's 15, 20 minutes. It's torture for a little kid. But it was okay though, because when I left there, I had a clean slate. My sins were wiped clean. My soul was pure. God had nothing on me. I could ask God for anything now, he would have to grant it because my soul is clean. I am worthy. I am worthy. When Jesus healed the paralytic, the one that they lowered through the roof for him, he said, your sins are forgiven. Take up your mat and walk. And I imagine he felt the same way I did. Jesus just forgave my sins. My soul is clean. I have a beautiful, clean slate. God has nothing on me. I'm worthy. God would have to grant anything I ask right now. I want to be healed. Take up your mat and walk. Okay. Got out of there. Now, you don't have to go to confession to experience that clean slate. Anytime you seek forgiveness from somebody, you feel you've wronged, you're really going to them for a clean slate. You're really asking them that you have a desire to begin anew with them. You want to earn their trust back again. You want to release that guilt and shame you felt over whatever it is you did that you felt hurt that person. And because of the healing power of forgiveness, that gift that they've given you, you really want to try harder next time to do better and not to hurt them again. Go and sin no more, as Jesus would say. And this is even more profound when you apply it to self-forgiveness. Okay, like when you're actually wanting a clean slate with yourself. When you want a do-over with yourself. In essence, you're actually forgiving your own sins. And we have the power to do that. When the Pharisees reprimanded Jesus for forgiving sins, he said, the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. Now, he wasn't talking about just himself. The Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. So you have the authority to forgive your own sins. You can step into the day each day with a clean slate. Give yourself a clean slate every day. It's like stepping out into the doors with a bright sunshine in your face. It's a beautiful feeling. And this idea of starting over and over again every day with a clean slate is so beautifully illustrated in the film, what is today? Groundhog. In the film Groundhog Day. You got it. There it is. There's Bill. There's Phil and Rita. I know most of you all have seen this. When we showed this a few months ago, everybody raised their hand, but then everybody showed up to watch it again. It's one of those movies you can watch over and over. The basic premise of the movie is if you could live long enough, would you change? Would you change? Would you ever change? So Groundhog Day, yeah, me either. You're in the right place this morning, girl. So Groundhog Day is about Phil. He's a grumpy weatherman. He's condescending, he's mean to everybody, and he's very egotistical. He thinks the whole world revolves around him. And for some strange reason, it might be the freak snowstorm that leaves him stranded, he gets caught in living the same day over and over and over again. And it's not just any day. It's the day he hates the most, Groundhog Day, because he's a weatherman. There's a rodent telling us the weather. In a town he hates the most, Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, which, by the way, is the very first Groundhog Day back in 1832. But so every morning at 6 a.m., to his bewilderment, he wakes up to the alarm clock singing I Got You, Babe by Sonny and Cher, and the DJs announcing at the top of their lungs, it's Groundhog Day. And no matter what he does or who he talks to, he can't seem to break this cycle. Just keeps repeating. And at first, Phil decides, because he's egotistical, he wants to use this newfound superpower for his own enjoyment, and he steals money. He figures out how to steal money. He fools women into sleeping with them. He acts out his fantasies of being Clint Eastwood and dresses up however he wants. It doesn't matter, because the next day, he's the only one that remembers what happened the day before. He tries to trick Rita into falling in love with him. He learns something new about her every day, and then the next day he tries to woo her with it. But she always sees through his ingenuineness and deceit, because it's not the true him. So pushed to the brink, Phil tries to kill himself. And this is one of the funniest ways he tries to kill himself. He kidnaps Phil, which is also, by the way, the groundhog. It might be another reason he hates it. Phil the groundhog and Phil the weatherman, he kidnaps him, drives him off a cliff. And into a fiery truck crash. And he jumps off buildings, he drops toasters in the bathtub, he does everything he can, but no matter what he does, every morning, 6 a.m., it's "I got you, babe," and those DJs like a knife in his heart shouting, "It's Groundhog Day." So in life, when we are unable to make changes, or we hear that yearning, that urge to do something, and we just keep ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it and putting it on the back shelf and ignoring it, at some point, the universe is going to put something in your way to turn you around. Or you could say we are going to attract something to us that will turn us around. And for Phil, that was a homeless man that he would walk over every day, and he would see him there, he'd make eye contact, but almost totally ignored him. He learns that he dies that night. And out of his boredom, I guess, he decides, I'm going to make it my mission to save this guy. So every day he gets up and he goes to the homeless man, he picks him up, he gives him a coat, he takes him, he feeds him 3 meals, he even takes him to the doctors. But no matter what he does, that homeless man still dies at the end of the day. It's one more thing he doesn't have any control over. The nurse just says it's his time to go. But that little act of compassion can open up this little crack in that ego. And when that little crack opens up, that inner light gets to shine through. And when that inner light shines through, somewhere in between the thoughts, or thought processes, the heart gets to send a message. And that message is, you are powerful beyond belief. You need not suffer if you let me lead you now. Let me lead you now. So after Phil sees the fragility and the unpredictability of life, his priorities on how he wants to spend his day change. He starts helping people instead of exploiting them. And eventually he fills his entire day with acts of kindness and service, showing up under a tree to catch a kid just in time. He has his tire in his jack. He waits at the corner because he knows some ladies are going to come by with a flat tire, rushes out, changes their tire. He shows up at the restaurant every night to save the mayor's life with the Heimlich maneuver. He knows exactly where everyone will be at exactly when to show up to help them. And eventually he fills his entire day with helping people in service. Over time, he becomes a local hero and beloved by everyone because he's touched just about everyone's life in that one day. He gives a stirring speech at his umpteenth Groundhog Day, accepting his little hamster wheel of a life, not as a curse, but as a blessing. So you see, Phil has surrendered. He's surrendered. He's accepted what is, and he's good with it. And he's also learned a valuable lesson, that it's really a life of generosity that truly makes him happy, not a self-centered life. Of course, Andy McDowell falls in love with him. Oops, we can keep going. There we go. Oh, there's the homeless man. I forgot to cure. I just take it off. So there's a homeless guy, he helps. And then finally, Andy McDowell falls in love with the man he has become in that one beautiful day. One more, there we go. Right, it worked great earlier. And that one beautiful day, and the power of true love and his desire to be of service breaks the spell. They finally wake up, it's February 3rd. He's elated, he broke the cycle. He got the girl. He learned the meaning of true happiness. And his last words to Rita and in the film are, I love this place, let's move here. Complete turnaround for Phil, the end. So the lesson that's in Groundhog Day for us is that most of us at some point in our life have felt trapped. We felt trapped in a cycle or a situation that we felt we had no power over. And it could either be a endless cycle of a habit, a rut, a job we don't like, but we feel stuck. Now, Myrtle Fillmore, one of Unity's co-founders, really Myrtle was Unity's founder, but we call Myrtle and Charles co-founders now. She wrote that sooner or later we come to the place in our development where we are no longer satisfied to go on living the old life without the knowledge of our oneness with Spirit. So Phil's attempts to avoid change, even to the most extreme degree, have failed. But the lesson's clear. You cannot escape that inner calling of Spirit. Once that seed of perfection is awakened in you, it will haunt you relentlessly until you do something about it. So Phil's personal journey for us represents that archetypal journey, that 18 inches, they say, is the longest journey you make from your head to your heart. It was from his ego consciousness to his Christ consciousness, from his addiction to freedom, from resistance to acceptance and release, and from expressing who he was not to expressing who he truly was. And that's possible for all of us. And we don't have the luxury, like Phil, of living the same day over and over again, but we do have the luxury of living each day over and over again until we get it right. We can wake up each morning and decide that we want to do good today, bless everyone we come in contact with, look for opportunities to be of service wherever we are, and create our own personal Groundhog Day, living life to its fullest. So I've come up with 3 steps that might help us keep on our course throughout this year. 3 steps for kind of staying your course and reminding yourself who you really are. The first one is forgive yourself daily and move forward fearlessly. This has to do with self-esteem. You know, our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, it's at the root of our manifestation process. You cannot draw to you what you don't feel you deserve. Your self-worth has to be in place and strong, and that affirmation, that which is in me is greater than that which is in the world. That's the affirmation to help strengthen our self-esteem. Number 2, recommit to your resolution each day. Okay, so every day you can't say, I got off my diet yesterday, I failed. You've got to recommit to it every day. One day at a time, as the 12-steppers say. You need not look any farther than that. Just like Phil, all you need to do is decide, when I wake up this morning, how do I want to show up today? And then number 3, no matter how many times you fall, you can begin again. And remember, you have not failed if you have not quit. So as long as you're not quitting, you haven't failed. You can keep going until you succeed. So here's some interesting trivia. Some people, big fans of the movie, have added up all the literal days they see in the movie, plus all the implied days, how long it takes to learn to play piano or speak French or ice sculpt, that Phil spent 12,395 days in Punxsutawney. That's almost 35 years. And some movie geeks have watched it and counted up just a little over 8 years worth of days. So somewhere between 8 and 35 years Phil spent in Punxsutawney. Now, metaphysicians would say that he spent 40 years in Punxsutawney. That's the number of completion. In other words, that means he was there until he got the job done, until it was finished. But the important thing to remember is that to always keep the faith. Remember that you haven't failed if you haven't given up, and that you have the choice to forgive your own sins, to begin each day with a new soul where your sins are forgiven and where your slate is eternally clean. And that's a very empowering thought for us. Let's take a moment now to go into meditation. As we take our deep breath in, and we feel that very energy of God that's in the air, the Easterners call it prana, God's life energy in the air we breathe that air in, and we see that energy going into our heart space and just opening up our hearts. You are powerful beyond belief. You need not suffer. Let me lead you now. The quest says that what was and what is has no effect on what can be. What can be in your life is not affected by what was, by your past, or by the present. So in your mind's eye, I'd like you to bring up a mirror where you can see yourself. And in this mirror, you're looking at yourself. Look deeply into your eyes, into your own eyes, and say with all the sincerity you can muster, I forgive you. Go forth today with a clean slate and feel worthy to accept everything, all the gifts that this day can bring you. For this we give great thanks. We bring ourselves back into this now moment. We give thanks for our sacred brothers and sisters around us that contribute to this experience of the divine that we have here this morning. We go forward today with great expectations of beautiful things happening for this day unfolding just as it should. Go Chiefs. And we affirm that it is so by saying, and so it is together. Did I break the mood? Just a little bit. I'm terribly sorry. Okay. I guess I'm a fan. I don't know. I guess I'm just a fan. The day unfolding. So, it's time for our love offering. Is it not? No. Oh, I didn't hear you, Lily. Oh, you know why? Because I didn't do silence. Okay. Yeah. We didn't have our little commune in silence, but we're going to sing Flow Through Me now.